Hi, I'm Bonnie Barker with BonnieBayCrochet.com, and today I'd like to show you how to make this, my favorite sports team poncho. This is made in your favorite team's colors, plus a little bit of white and a little bit of black, and it's a lot of fun to make. I'm going to show you step by step. Before we do that, if you could hit that little subscribe button if you haven't done that already, that way you won't miss the sequel to this or any of the other offerings that I'll be offering on my channel this fall and this winter. I have a lot of fun things lined up and you're not going to want to miss out on any of it. For this project, I used the Marley Bird's Red Heart Chic Sheep yarn. This is 100% wool. This is a worsted weight yarn. It's on the lighter side, but if you don't want to use this, you want to use your favorite acrylic, that would be probably an excellent substitute. Just make sure that you're careful on your hook sizes. For this particular project, I used 4 of color number 1, which is the red in my case. The yellow was color number 2. I used 3 scans of that, plus 1 scan of white and 1 scan of black. And that's what you're going to need. The conversions will be in the written pattern, which is available at my Love Crafts store online, so you can just check the link or the video description below for that link. Should you be interested in that, I really do suggest that you follow along with the written pattern just so that you're not confused at any point. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started.
Let me give you some detailed stats on this yarn that I'm using. I'm using the Red Heart Chic Sheep by Marley Bird, which is a wonderful favorite yarn of mine. This is 100% wool. This is a medium or number 4 size yarn. In the UK, I believe they call this Aran weight yarn. Although it is on the lighter side, it's not as heavy as some, but it is still on number 4. And each scan has 186 yards or 170 meters of yarn, 3.50 ounces, and 100 grams. Okay, so just give you that information in case you need to, translate that into a different type of yarn. And let me also add, you're welcome to use 100% acrylic yarn, such as the Red Heart Super Saver. I actually used some of that and some of the Caron 1-pounder yarn from my original sample. It does work quite well, although it does add a particular stiffness to the fabric. So you need to keep that in mind. If you're looking for something with more fluid, drapey fabric, I would go more for the Chic Sheep. If you're looking for a stiffer garment, the acrylic will work well for that. You're also going to need a crochet hook, size I, or 9 or 5.50 millimeter, or whatever size that you require to meet gauge. That's very important since we're making something to wear. It's more important that your gauge is in the ballpark with the gauge used for this project. You're also going to need a yarn needle for hiding loose ends, of which there are going to be many, and a pair of scissors handy. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. To begin, we start with a slip knot, and now we are going to chain 90 chains. After crocheting the 90 chains, we want to be careful not to twist the chain, because we're going to join to form a ring to the first chain. So I'm going to go ahead and stick the hook in and join with a slip stitch like this. Slip, stitch, chain 1 as we begin round 1, and we're going to single crochet in the first 44 chains. After those 44 stitches, we're actually not going to do anything different. Just continue crocheting 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. On round 2 is actually where I'm going to begin doing something a little different after 44 stitches, but for now, let's go ahead and just single crochet in each stitch all the way around, and you will have 90 single crochets when you finish this round. After you've single crocheted in each chain around, we're going to join with a slip stitch to the first single crochet, just like this. Now be careful as you go around that you don't count this stitch, which is just the join, as a stitch. Okay, so go ahead and chain 1, Now we're going to begin round number 2, and we're going to start by working a single crochet in that very first stitch that where we joined, and you're going to do that until you have 44 single crochets. So go ahead, including this first stitch, crochet 44 single crochets across. Okay, I've now crocheted 44 single crochets. One thing I should have also mentioned is I did not turn at the end of the round. I hope you noticed that. All of these single crochet rows, and there are going to be many that we're going to be crocheting, are going to be all crocheted with the front side facing. We're not going to be turning to work on the back side of the single crochets unless we're working other stitches that we'll get to later. So okay, so now we've crocheted 44 single crochets. In the next, or the 45th stitch, we're going to begin working the corner, which is going to be 2 single crochets, chain 2, and 2 single crochets, all worked in that same space. And you can already see the little pointy corner that's forming. Okay, now we are going to single crochet, you guessed it, in the next 44 stitches, and that should bring you to within 1 stitch of the end of the round. After working the next 44 single crochets, that brings us to the last single crochet of the round, and we're going to work 2 single crochets, chain 2, and 2 single crochets in that same space, forming another corner, and then we join with a slip stitch to that first stitch of the round. And since we are going to change to another color, go ahead and fasten off, give it a pull, and make sure you cut yourself a nice long strand so that would be easy to hide. And now we're going to go to our black yarn. Okay, now we're going to start working with the black colored yarn. You can tell I did change the backdrop a bit so that you can actually see the yarn. Instead of adding it here where I'm going to have to hide this strand, I decided to go to the other corner to join my yarn in that chain 2 space. And the reason I'm doing this is I don't want all of the yarn to be hidden on one side of the poncho. I want it to be kind of spread out a bit so that, it doesn't all, bunch up on one side. All right, so I did my little slip knot, and now I'm going to chain 1, and working in that chain 2 space, I'm going to work 2 double crochets. I'm going to slide it over here just so there's going to be room. Chain 2, and 2 more single crochets. I hope I said single crochets the first time. That's what I should have said. Okay, now there is a stitch right here that is our first stitch, and sometimes it tends to get hidden when you put all of this into the stitch before. So make sure you don't forget that stitch because that's an important part of your stitch count. And we're just going to single crochet in each stitch until we get to the next corner. And notice that I'm crocheting on top of this loose strand. This is going to save a lot of time later, and I think it's a good way to hide that extra strand. So go ahead and single crochet all the way until you get to the next corner. After working all the way to the chain 2 corner, go ahead and work those 2 single crochets, chain 2, and 2 more single crochets in that chain 2 corner. Now do be careful that you don't skip the first stitch. The first stitch, as we single crochet across to the next corner, is right here. Okay, it's easy to just go over that stitch. Some people call it a hidden stitch. Make sure you use it because that's going to greatly help to increase our stitch count, which is what we're trying to do as we go across. So go ahead and work that all the way across, working 1 single crochet in each single crochet until you get to the next corner. Once you've crocheted all the way to the next corner, which was where we joined our yarn, make sure that you do work in each single crochet here. Now we're going to join with a slip stitch to the first stitch of the round, slip stitch. I'm going to give it a little tug there so that you don't accidentally work in that join, and go ahead and fasten off. I'm going to go ahead and get my scissors here and leave a generous strand, and go ahead and pull that through. Now we're ready to change to our white yarn. Now for the next round, which is round number 4, it says to join in any chain 2 space. Now since I finished on this side, I'm going to go ahead and join in this chain 2 space here. Let me go ahead and do my little slip knot. Okay, and then bring it through and then do my 1 chain. Just minimizes the size of the stitch here. And I'm going to do 2 single crochets, chain 2, and 2 single crochets, 1 and 2. I know this is going to be hard to see with these different colors here, but don't forget the first stitch. It's a little hidden, so you need to go ahead and grab it. And I am going to go ahead and work over this tail as I do my first several stitches, just so that I don't have to worry about hiding it later. It's going to be a lot of threads to hide if we don't work them into our work right now. And I think that's probably going to be enough right there. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this back a bit. Very careful to trim the excess and not my stitches. So go ahead, and we're just going to repeat row number 3 again, which we just put a single crochet in each stitch around. When I get to the corner here, I am going to work 2 single crochets, chain 2, and 2 single crochets, and then I'm going to come all the way around the other side, and then I'm going to join with a slip stitch here, and I will show you that join next. At the end of this round, we're going to join with a slip stitch. Make sure that you've crocheted in all of the stitches there. Join with a slip stitch to the first stitch of the round. Go ahead and pull a little bit tight so that that loop is not worked in accidentally. Go ahead and give it a chain and a tug, and cut yourself a generous, there you go, generous piece of yarn. Now we're ready to go on to color number 2. And just like I did the last time, I'm going to join in the opposite end of where I ended. This will just kind of help spread, the yarn, change a little bit extra yarn there out a little more evenly. So join in any chain 2 corner, and we are going to repeat that same single crochet row yet again. So go ahead and join, and we're going to work 2 single crochets, 1, 2, chain 2, and 2 single crochets, 1, 2. It's all worked in that chain 2 space, and as we did before, we're going to be careful that we don't miss any stitches here. So this hidden single crochet that tends to hide away, I'm going to work my yarn in there as well. Make sure you get that stitch and the next one, and go ahead and single crochet all the way across the row till you get to this chain 2 corner, and then when you get to this corner, go ahead and do the same thing. 2 single crochets, chain 2 single crochets, and then crochet all the way back, and I will show you the join. At the end of row 5, we're just going to join with a slip stitch to that first stitch of the round, just like we've been doing for the last few rows. Go ahead and pull that a little tight, give it a chain and a tug, and get the handy dandy scissors, cut the thread. Okay, now I'm going to give you a 2 round assignment. We're going to do this again, but we're first going to use the white color, and then we're going to use the black color. So in other words, round 6 is going to be done in white, and then round 7 in black. So I'm going to go ahead and do those off camera because it's the same thing. I'm going to be joining in the chain 2 space and working the 2 single crochets, chain 2, 2 single crochet all the way across to the next corner, etc. So go ahead and do those 2 rows again with the white color and then with the black. So after completing rows 6 and 7, 1 row with the white and 1 row with the black, we're going to return now to color number 1. So go ahead and work your little slip knot And then we're going to join this with a chain to the chain 2 space. And just like we've been doing, go ahead and do 2 single crochets, chain 2, and 2 single crochets in that chain 2 corner, and then work a single crochet in each stitch all the way to the next corner, just like we've been doing. But at the end of this round, once you come all the way around back here, do not disconnect. I'm going to show you how to continue on to round 9, because we're actually going to do 2 rounds with this color this time. At the end of round 8, we're going to join with a slip stitch to that first stitch of the round, and go ahead and leave this kind of loosely, because we're going to actually be working in that as part of this single crochet when we come around. Okay, and then we're going to do another slip stitch in that single crochet, and again we will work over that when we come around at the end of this next round, and then slip stitch into the chain 2, chain 1, and then we're back to where we started. Go ahead and do 2 single crochets, chain 2, and 2 single crochets, and we're going to complete this round just the way we've been doing, a repeat of round number 3. So go ahead and give this second round with this color number 1 and work it around, and I will show you the join, and we will be changing to a different stitch after this. It'll be really fun. At the end of round 9, we're going to join with a slip stitch to that first stitch as we've been doing, and go ahead and give it a chain, and we're going to also trim the yarn again and give that a tug. Now we are ready to go back to color number 2, which in this case is the yellow, and rounds 10 and 11 we're going to be working what we call the arrow stitch. So I'm going to go to the other end. You can start in any of the chain 2 spaces, but I like, as I said before, alternating, just for the hiding of the loose strand thing. And go ahead and do your slip knot. Okay, and we're going to do a chain with that. And actually go ahead and do 2 more chains. So we have a chain 3, and this does count as a double crochet. And then we're going to work a double crochet, 1 more double crochet here. And you guessed it, chain 2, and then 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, and that's what we're going to do in the other corner actually. With this chain 3, which acts as a double crochet in the other corner, we'll actually have 2 real double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets. Now to do this stitch is quite interesting. We're going to start off by skipping the first 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3. We're going to skip those, and we're going to work a treble crochet in the next stitch, just like that. Now working behind this treble crochet, we're going to double crochet in each of the skip stitches. Now don't forget that first stitch is a little bit tricky to find. It's that little hidden stitch. It tends to get hidden behind the corner stitches. So we do double crochets in those 3 stitches that we skipped. Okay, and that's pretty much what we're going to do all the way across until we get to the next corner. Skip the next 3 stitches that have not been worked, 1, 2, 3, treble crochet in the next stitch, and then working behind this stitch, we're going to double crochet in each of the 3 stitches that we skipped. 1, 2, and 3, just like that. So go ahead and work that all the way across. I'll do one more time for you. Okay, the stitches that we haven't used, make sure that you don't count this one because we've already used that for a treble crochet. Do you see that? So 1, 2, 3, the 3 stitches we haven't used, we skip those. Treble crochet in the next stitch, and then double crochet and the 3 stitches that we skipped. Okay, I'll do it one more time for you because this might actually be a new stitch for some of you. Skip 3, 1, 2, 3, treble crochet in that next stitch, working behind the treble crochet, double crochet in the 3 skipped stitches. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and work this until I get to the next corner. Okay, just to show you, I've worked this arrow stitch all the way to the corner, and the numbers do work out. Now, I haven't given round by round all the numbers. All of that is provided in the pattern, and I encourage you to check that out on my Lovecrafts site. There's a lot of math involved in this, and it might be very helpful for you to follow along with the pattern with the exact stitch count. Now, this particular round that we're working on is going to have 160 stitches when we're done. Okay, so now when we get to the corner, now this did work out evenly with the different stitches, we're going to work 2 double crochets, a chain 2, and 2 more double crochets, 1 and 2. Okay, now we are going to continue working the arrow just the way we did, starting from the beginning of this round. Skip the first 3, 1, 2, 3 stitches, treble crochet in that next stitch, and then we're going to go back working behind that stitch. Make sure you grab that first stitch, which is kind of hidden, and work 1 double crochet in each of those 3 skipped stitches. And go ahead and work this all the way to the beginning of the round, and it should work out mathematically. Should you end up with extra stitches, hopefully that's not going to happen to you, but if it does, usually these things can be worked out by just simply double dipping in a stitch or even skipping a stitch if you need to. I know it's kind of hard to have to do that, but if you need to do it occasionally, I promise you, if it's just 1 stitch here, 1 stitch there, it'll just be a secret between us. I mean, nobody is going to really know that. It makes me sad when I hear people just rip out complete projects because they're off by 1 stitch. I've always been one to kind of fix that as I go. But of course, if it's 10 or 15 stitches, you definitely got to do something about that. So go ahead and just finish this all the way to the beginning of the round. Okay, now that we've worked the arrow row 1 all the way around, we're going to join to the top of this chain 3, just like this, the slip stitch. Now we're going to do something we haven't done yet. We're going to turn. We're going to work with the back side facing. So far everything's been done with the front side facing. For these special stitches, we are going to be turning. Okay, so we're going to chain 3. And that does serve as a double crochet. And now we're going to work round 2 of the arrow stitch. And the way we do this is very similar to what we've been doing. We're going to skip the first 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and those are just the double crochets. And then we're going to treble crochet in the next stitch. And that stitch that you treble in should be the treble stitch that we worked from the previous round. Now working in front of this stitch, instead of working behind, working in front, we're going to double crochet in those 3 stitches that we skipped. Okay, now this is, right now we have the back side facing us, so I'll show the other side in just a second. Let's do this a couple times. Skip the next 3 stitches, treble crochet in the next stitch, which happens to be the top of the treble crochet from the last round, and then double crochet in the next 3 stitches. And do that again. Skip the next 3 double crochets and then treble crochet in the next stitch, and then working in front of that stitch, double crochet in those 3 stitches that we just skipped. Okay, let's show you the front side, show you what we're making here. So now you can see there is an arrow here. Do you see that? that's what we're doing. And this would be, of course, the front side facing. This is one of my favorite stitches in case you follow any of my other patterns. I just love the texture. I love the quickness just of crocheting. I just, like everything about it. Okay, so I'll do one more for you. Skip the next 3. Treble crochet in the next stitch, which happens to be a treble. And then double crochet in the 3 stitches that we just skipped. Okay, so make sure that you're doing trebles when you're supposed to do trebles and double crochets when you do double crochets. After working that all the way across the row, we have 2 unworked double crochets. Go ahead and work a double crochet in each of those stitches, and that brings us to the chain 2 corner, and we're going to work 2 double crochets, a chain 2, 1, 2, and then 2 more double crochets worked in that chain 2 space. Okay, and let me go ahead and show you what this looks like from the other side. This is from the front side. I just want you to see just how lovely this stitch is. It really is a nice pronounced change to all the color work that's going on here, and that's going to be repeated in this project. Okay, so now we are going down the other side. Go ahead and double crochet in those 2 stitches. These are not part of the arrow stitch. And we're going to skip the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and treble crochet in that next stitch. And just like we've been doing, working in front of that stitch, double crochet in those 3 stitches that we skipped. Okay, I'll do this one more time. Skip 3 stitches, treble crochet in the next stitch, and then we're going to double crochet in the 3 stitches that we skipped, but we're going to work in front of that treble crochet so that the arrow is on the front side. Okay, so I'm going to have you work that all the way to the very end, and when you get to the end, we're going to double crochet in these 2 stitches that are not part of the arrow stitch. Then we're going to do another corner, which is 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochets in this space here, and then double crochet, and then we are going to join with a slip stitch because this chain also serves as a double crochet in our stitch count for this round. So go ahead and finish that. Just so there's no doubt, I'm going to go ahead and step you through this corner. I'm going to double crochet in those ones in each of those 2 double crochets that are not part of the arrow stitches. And then when we get to the chain 2 space, we work 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then 2 more double crochets. Okay, that leaves us 1 double crochet here, 2 crochet in 2, and then this chain 3 serves as a double crochet, and we're going to join to the top of that. Let me make sure I get the, hold on a second, 1, 2, 3. I was about to join it to the treble crochet, but I'm going to join it to the top, the first chain of that chain 3. Okay, so now we are going to fasten off. So go ahead and give it a chain, give it a tug, and get out your scissors so we can cut a strand there. And so what you can do is go ahead and work these in. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and work these into my work so that they're not dangling any further. But let's go ahead and take a look at what we have so far. So this is the beginning of our poncho. Okay, I think it's looking pretty good. And I really like the way this yarn is working out. Okay, now I have an assignment for you. We're going to be working the next 2 rows the exact same way that we worked rounds, I'm sorry, I should have said rows before, rounds 7 and 8 where we worked with the red, so, or color number 1. So we're going to go ahead and join in any chain 2. I'll go ahead and do this as I talk. It's just as easy to do it as it is to explain it. So I'm going to go ahead and join as I talk. Go ahead and join color number 1 in that chain 2 space. Work 2 single crochets, chain 2, and 2 single crochets. I'm going to try to bring this strand around to the back. Okay, and now I'm going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch across, just like we've been doing until we got to the arrow stitch. So we're back to basically replicating this color scheme here. So go ahead and work this for the next 2 rounds. That would be rounds 12 and 13. And then this is what I'm going to have you do, the little assignment, and then I'll show you what I have in a few minutes. After you work 2 rounds, like we've been doing, when you get to the corner, make sure you do 2 single crochet, chain 2, 2 single crochets. That's the only thing different you do for the corners. And then you will join the yarn at the end of this round, and just like I did down here, slip stitch to the next stitch, slip stitch to the chain 2, chain 1, and then do another corner in the corner, which is 2 single crochet, chain 2, 2 single crochets. Go all the way around, and then you can join and fasten off the yarn there, and then you're going to join the black yarn and do a round and fasten off, then the white yarn and then fasten off at the end of that round, and then color number 2, and then color the white color, and then the black color. So we are repeating this color section here. So go ahead and do those rows, and then I will show you what I have. After completing rounds 12 through 18, and by the way, if I say row, I really mean round. I get these words mixed up sometimes, so I thank you in advance for being gracious towards me in that. Well, anyway, so we have round 12, 13 in color number 1, round 14, 15, 16, which is color number 2, 17, and round number 18. Now it's time for us to start round number 19. We're going back. Here we go. We're going back to color number 1. So whatever color that is for your favorite sports team, go ahead and let's get back to that color. And we are going to join in the chain 2 space again. So go ahead and make your little slip knot and pull that through. And then we're going to actually chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And this chain 3 actually counts as a double crochet. What we are going to do now is we're transitioning to using the Celtic Weave. And before we can do that, we're going to crochet a round of double crochets all the way around. So go ahead and make another double crochet. Again, this chain serves as a double crochet, and then another double crochet, chain 2, just like we did for the arrow, and then 2 more double crochets in that chain 2 corner space. Now what we're going to do is we're going to work straight double crochets all the way around the perimeter, or all the way around the poncho. So go ahead and do that. When you get to the other corner, just like we did for the arrow stitch, go ahead and work 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets in that corner space, and I will show you the join and the begin of the Celtic Weave. At the end of round 19, we're going to join with a slip stitch to the top chain, and I am going through 2 strands there. That's just my personal preference. Do a slip stitch, and again, this chain does act as a double crochet. Okay, now instead of chaining, we are going to actually slip stitch in the next stitch, and then we're going to slip stitch to the chain 2. Okay, I am going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. This is the start of rounds 20 through 27. For these 8 rounds, we're going to be using the Celtic Weave stitch. Now, if you've never done this before, I'm not trying to scare you or anything. This can be a little challenging. So if you need more practice on this, feel free to practice the stitch. I have a separate video on this stitch should you need more tutorial help. Okay, so for just the corner, we're going to do our double crochets like we've been doing. So do 1 double crochet. Again, that goes with this chain, so that really counts as 2 double crochets. We're going to chain 2, and then we're going to do 2 more double crochets in this chain 2 space. 1 and 2. All right, now here we go. This is going to be the Celtic Weave, and these are going to be post stitches. In other words, we're going to be wrapping our hook around the stitch rather than going in through the top. All right, so I'm going to just dig in here. We're going to skip these 2 stitches, the first 2, and we're going to do front post treble crochets. We wrap the hook 2 times. Let me go ahead and do that again. Wrap the hook twice for these trebles. All of the Celtic Weave stitches, these next 8 rows, are going to be either front post trebles or back post trebles. Well, of course, except for these double crochets we just did here. So skip 2, wrap the hook around that next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. That's the front post treble. Do that again in the next stitch. Okay, now working in front of these last 2 stitches, we're going to work front post treble in the 2 stitches that we skipped. So we start with the one furthest away to the right or to the left if you're watching the left-handed video, and then the next one, just like so. And that's pretty much what we are going to do all the way across the row. Skip these 2, front post treble, and the next 2 stitches, 1 in each stitch, of course. Okay, so we're making these kind of like crisscrosses. Working in front of these 2 stitches, go to the stitches that have not been worked, the one furthest away, and then the second stitch that we skipped. I'm going to do that again so that you can. I'll do it a couple more times because I know this is going to hang some of you up, and if it does, I am really sorry. Try not to get too frustrated with it. Well, let's just go with it. Skip 2. It's actually not as hard as you would think. Front post treble in that next stitch. Now working in front of these 2 stitches, go back to the 2 that you skipped. And it's really important that you have the correct stitch count for this, because this is a multiple of 4 for this particular stitch. And again, check your stitch count. The stitch count is getting quite high. At the end of round 19, we had 232 stitches. At the end of this round, we're going to have 240 stitches. Okay, skip 2. So that's a lot of counting. And you don't have to count at the end of each row. I mean, or round rather. But as long as you're putting a stitch in each stitch, you should be fine. Okay, if that's a hard skill for you, if you're still a beginner and you're still having a hard time putting 1 stitch in each stitch, this probably isn't the project for you. It's probably a little late to tell you that, but it is advertised as an intermediate pattern. But if you're a new beginner and you've got your skills down, the beginning skills down, and you want to grow, then this is a great project for you. Okay, so working in front of these 2, we're going to front post treble in these 2 stitches. Okay, so just go ahead and work that all the way across until you get to the next corner. After working all the way across, before we get to that chain 2 space, I wanted to show you the last 4 stitches just for the sake of clarity. Skip those 2 stitches and front post treble crochet and the next 2 stitches. Working in front of these 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in the 2 stitches that we skipped. Okay, and then we get to the corner, and you've done this already, but just again to be clear, 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then 2 more double crochets in that chain 2 space, and then we get right on back on track to working that Celtic Weave. Skip 2 stitches, front post treble in the next 2 stitches, working in front of those 2 stitches we just did. Go ahead and front post treble crochet in those 2 stitches that we skipped. Okay, so just continue that all the way across the row, and let's just take a peek here where we're headed with this. And after you do the last 4 stitches, then we're just going to connect with a slip stitch to the top of that chain, and I'll show that to you when we get to that point. Okay, that brings us to the last 4 stitches, and notice that one of them is a chain, which is treated just like a double crochet. So we skip these 2 stitches, front post treble in the next double crochet, which is actually a chain 3, pretending to be a double crochet, and then we work in front of these 2, front post treble in the 2 stitches that we just skipped. Okay, and now we're going to join with the slip stitch to the top of that chain 3, just like that. Okay, now we are going to turn to work with the back side facing, and go ahead and chain 1, 2, 3 stitches. So after the chain 3, I'm going to show you something a little bit different. We're going to start this back side, or our row 2 of the Celtic Weave, a little differently than what we normally would. Normally we would just start with these first 2, but I'm going to have you skip 4. We're going to work it kind of like in the round. We're going to skip 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches, and then we're going to do back post treble in the next 2 stitches, which is right here. So let me show you this again. We skip the first 4 stitches, and then the 2 stitches that are here, we're going to back post treble in each of those 2 stitches. Now working in front of these stitches as seen from the front. So we're going to kind of come around this way. Let me show you. It's going to be in front of these. We're going to come around, and these 2 stitches that are underneath, they're a little bit hidden. And you're going to have to use the nerves and the thumb and tall man here to find these stitches for you. But when you do that, we're going to do a back post treble around each of those stitches individually, and that's what we're going to do all the way across. We're going to now we're going to actually, that was the first step, was to skip 4, and then we begin the crossing. Now after we begin the crossing, we're going to skip 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to go to the next 2 stitches, which are right here. We're going to do back post treble around each of these, and then working in front of these 2 as seen from the front. Okay, the hook's going to go around here, and again use these fingers to feel for these 2 stitches that are kind of hidden. This Celtic Weave is literally a woven stitch. These stitches really do connect with each other and are woven, not just in word, but in reality they really are. So so now we're going to do that again. Skip the next 2 stitches, back post treble in the next 2 stitches. And again, I have another video on my channel should you need to take a look at that, just to get a better idea of what I'm doing. So again, I'm going to take and I find these 2 stitches that were skipped. You can see them there, and my thumb actually, and this finger, like I said before, actually helps to guide my hook to tell me where the stitch is, and I'm trying to show it to you as well. Okay, I'm going to do this for you one more time. Skip 2 stitches, back post treble in the next 2, working in front of these 2 stitches as seen from the front side. We're going to work around these 2. Make sure your hook goes towards the back. Okay, like this. And I'll show you what it looks like coming in from the front, like this. I promise you this is the most challenging part of this project. But if you've already worked with this stitch before, then it's not going to be a problem for you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and work this all the way across, and let me show you the front side of what it's starting to look like. See? And the reason why we actually skipped 4 and started over here is we're going to be adding stitches in the following rows, and we're going to actually work the Celtic weave into some of these new stitches that are coming into play, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so go ahead and finish all the way to the corner, and I'll show you how to work the corner because I want to make sure that you understand, with clarity, how this stitch works in this project. Okay, now that we got to the near the chain 2 corner, you see we have 4 stitches, 2 stitches. That's part of one of the Celtic weave crosses, and then you have these 2 extra stitches over here. We're going to go ahead, and since we skipped those stitches at the beginning, we're going to work these 2 stitches into this pattern. So the pattern's actually going to grow a little bit as far as the Celtic weave goes, and you don't have to worry too much about this. It's just discontinue what you're doing, skip 2 stitches, and then just include these as the next 2 stitches, just like this. Back post treble crochet over those double crochets that were just sitting there, and like we've been doing all along, working in front of these 2 stitches as seen from the front side. We're going to find these 2 hidden stitches here and back post treble. Well, let me try that one again. Back post treble over those other 2 stitches that were just skipped. Okay, now that brings us to the chain 2, and you know what to do here. We're going to put 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then 2 more double crochets in that chain 2 space. Okay, now we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, which are just the simple double crochets, but we are going to include those into the Celtic weave, and I'll show you the other side in just a second. So skip these 2 stitches, back post treble, and the next 2 stitches, which are part of that Celtic weave stitch already. Working in front of these 2 as seen from the front side, we're going to come around and use those double crochets and work back post treble crochets. If I said double, I meant treble. My head knows what I want to say, but sometimes the tongue doesn't always cooperate. I'm sure some of you can relate to that. Okay, and we just continue. Skip the next 2 stitches here, back post treble, and the next 2 stitches. Working in front of these 2 stitches as seen from the front side here. I'm going to go ahead and find the 2 stitches that I'm going to work around and let the thumb kind of guide the hook there. Okay. And so there you have it, and just continue this on all the way till you get to the join, and I'll show you what to do on the join because it's going to be a little different there as well. Okay, so let me show you from this side what this should look like. Okay. All right, so go ahead and finish to the join, and then I will show that to you. Now I want to work the area coming in. We're still working that Celtic weave. So we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, and then the next 2 stitches we're going to work those 2 double crochets just like we did at the other corner. Okay, back post treble there, and back post treble in the next double crochet, and then again working in front of those 2 stitches as seen from the front. We're going to work around these 2 stitches. I know I'm saying the same thing over and over again, but hopefully it'll be helpful to you all if this is a stitch that's kind of new to you. And again, if you need to slow me down, you know which button to hit. I explained that earlier. Okay, so after you do that, we're going to do those 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets worked in that chain 2 corner. Now we're not done. Remember at the very beginning we skipped 4 stitches instead of 2, and this is how this comes into play. We're going to pick up these other 2 stitches. They're right down here. Okay, 1, 2. They're a little bit lower, okay, because this up here is the second row of the Celtic Weave. Okay, so once we do that, now we need to do these other 2 stitches as well. So working in front of these last 2 stitches, we're going to work a back post treble over those 2 double crochets. Okay, now we need to connect in, and as you recall, here is the chain 3 that we started with. This is where we are, and so go ahead and connect actually to the first treble crochet of the round with a slip stitch. I'm going to turn and show you what we're doing and how it should look at the corner. Okay, so we're just continuing this Celtic Weave, and it is going to continue into these stitches in the corners as we go along. Okay, so that ends round number 21. So we're going to chain, actually let's go ahead and turn, and make sure I get this so the camera focuses on what I want it to see. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we've turned to work the other side, and again we're going to skip 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Make sure you do that just at the start of this round, and we're going to start by working in this double crochet right here. Okay, we skip 4 and then we front post treble in the next 2 stitches. And then working in front of these 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in the 2 stitches that were skipped right here. Of course, we skipped 4. These other 2 as well. We're not working in those until the very end. And one reason why I do this, let me show you real quickly here, is that it tends to conceal the turning chain completely for these rounds. We just want the Celtic Weave to be featured, and we don't want to be featuring our turning chains or anything like that. Okay, so now we come to the chain 2 corner already. Go ahead and work 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets right in there. Okay, I know I say okay a lot. I'm sorry about that. Try not to do that too much. So now we're going to skip these 2 stitches and front post treble in the next 2 stitches, working in front of these last 2 treble crochets. Go ahead and front post treble in each of these double crochets that are in that corner. Okay, just like that. And now we're just going to continue this all the way around, just like we did 2 rows ago. But I'll go ahead and I will show you the corner when we get to that. So I did the 2 front post stitches. Now the 2 stitches that we skipped, we're going to work front post treble crochets in each of those. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we have. So this is what we have, and this right here, this area here started the 3rd Celtic Weave. It's actually the 4th row if you count the foundation. And let me show you quickly how you can count. The Celtic Weave part would be 1, 2, or if we're counting over here, 1, 2, 3. You count where the stitches cross. So I'll go ahead and finish that to the next corner, and I'll guide you through that next corner. After going all the way to the corner, I'm going to show you the corner again. We're going to skip these 2 stitches, front post treble in those 2 double crochets that were added in the previous corner, and then working in front of these 2 stitches, we're going to work those front post trebles around these 2 stitches. Okay, and that brings us to the chain 2 corner itself, where we work 2 double crochets, chain 2. Let's move this out of the way so the camera doesn't focus on that, and then 2 more double crochets. Alright, now we start down the other side. We're going to skip 2 stitches. This is just like what we did before. Front post treble in the next 2 stitches. Working in front of these 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in these double crochets, 1 in each. Okay, and let's go ahead and just continue the pattern. Skip 2, front post treble, oops, in the next 2 stitches. Working in front of these last 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in these 2 stitches that we skipped. Let's pause and take a look at this corner. It should look just like the other corner. Okay, so go ahead and work this all the way across, and then I will all the way across till we get to the join, and I will show you the join. Now notice that the join is going to be before we get to the corner, okay, and which is the way it's supposed to be. And after that I will show you how to continue the next row. To end round 22, we still have these stitches to connect and the ones here, and I'll go ahead and do these last 2. These are the front post treble crochet, because we skipped these 2 down here, and then front post treble crochet in that next stitch. Working in front of these 2 stitches, we're going to front post treble in these 2 stitches that we just skipped. And then after that, we're going to join. Here's the turning chain that we started with, but we're going to join to the first treble crochet just like that. And if you take a look at it, and go ahead and pull this up, the Celtic Weave should pretty much be seamless through here. Okay, so that ends round number 22. Now to do round number 23, we're going to start just like we have the others with the chain 3, and we are going to continue to skip 4 at the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to skip these 4 stitches and then work back post treble crochet in the next 2 stitches. And again, working in front of these 2 stitches as seen from the front side. We're going to go ahead, let me see if I can show you a little bit better. I'm going to be working around these 2 stitches. So we come around the back side and do 2 more back post treble crochets. And we're just going to continue that until we get to the next corner. And let me go ahead and let me finish these stitches, and then I want to look at the corner with you ahead of time. It's going to be the same as it was on row number 21. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that. Now let's go ahead and just look ahead a little bit to this. Okay, so when we get to this section, we're going to go ahead and we're going to work these 2 stitches, and then we're going to work these 2 stitches exactly the way we did with row number 21. And then again, we form the corner, 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets there, and then when we turn here, we're going to do these 2, we're going to skip these 2 double crochets, we're going to do 2 back post trebles here, and then going to come around and work these 2 stitches, working back post treble crochets just exactly like we did on round number 21. So go ahead and finish this round, and I will show you the connection at the end. Let me show you the end of round 23. We have just these two left. These are the first two of the 4 stitches we skipped at the beginning of the round. Go ahead and do, we've actually just skipped these two. And just for the record, again, we're not working in this turning chain for these Celtic Weave rounds. So go ahead and do those 2 back post treble crochets. And then working in front of these as seen from the front side, we're going to bring our hook back behind, and we're going to do these 2 stitches that we skipped. Alright, now we're ready to join, and we're going to join to the first back post treble of the round, right like that, with a slip stitch. Let's go ahead and turn and see what we have. Okay, so this is what we should have already. So let me show you a quick way to count these. I may have already done this, but I'll do it again. So this was round number 20, that's right, 21, 22, and round 23. So where these X's are, you can count where the X's cross. So 20, 21, 22, 23. And now we're ready to begin round 24. And this will be with the front side facing. Go ahead and chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and just like we started the other ones, we're going to start by skipping 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to start right over here, and I'll take you through the corner again. I know this is redundant, but you know, some people like that, and you know, it takes me more than once or twice to learn something, and I have no problem reviewing. That's just the best way to learn. Okay, so now working in front of these 2, we're going to front post treble in these 2 stitches here that are hidden. Okay, now we're going to do this one more time. Skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, which are these 2 hidden trebles, and then we're going to front post treble in these 2 stitches, these 2 double crochets that are part of that corner from the previous round. And again, working in front of those stitches. You'll probably hear this in your sleep tonight. Hope not. Go ahead and front post treble in those 2 hidden stitches. Brings us to our chain 2 corner, and you should know what to do at this point. 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then 2 more double crochets. Let's get that little piece of fuzz out of there. 1 and 2. And then let's go ahead and skip the next 2 double crochets that will become part of this Celtic Weave. And we're going to front post treble in the next 2 stitches. Notice the stitches are always leaning this direction that you begin with. Working in front of these 2 stitches, front post treble in those 2 double crochets, one at a time. Okay, let's pause and get that other thing out of there. So this is what you should have at this point. Again, this is round number 24. I'm going to do 2 more, just one more set here. Skip these 2 stitches and then front post treble, and you're going to just continue this all the way around and completing the corner just the way I showed you here. So you do have that one corner at the other end. Go ahead and working in front of those 2, going to find these 2 hidden stitches. Okay, and just continue this all the way around. Now I'm going to have you go ahead and complete round 24. Then you're going to do round 25, that's with the back side facing, round 26 with the front side facing, and then round 27 with the back side facing. These are just going to be repeats of rounds 22 and 23. Okay, or yeah, that's right. The even rows will be a repeat of, with the front side facing, will be a repeat of round 22, and with the back side facing will be a repeat of round 23. So go ahead and finish that. When you are done, you should have a total of 8 rounds with the Celtic Weave. You should be able to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and all the way up to 8. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and finish that, and then I'll show you what I have when I'm finished. After joining to that first treble crochet at the end of round 27, let's go ahead and turn, and let me show you what you should have at this point. And I'm going to show you how I like to count these rows, because they can be a little bit tricky. Okay, this was row number 19. Row 20 is where this first cross is. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, and then 27. Okay, now if you were one of these people that would like your poncho to be extra long on your arms, and maybe even covering them, this is where you're going to need to add some extra rounds. I would suggest adding in sets of 2, and as you can see, I'll go ahead and get my measuring tape out. Using my yarn that I'm using, and using a size I hook, and if you have proper gauge, you're going to add about, let's go ahead and try to do this proper like. Okay, you're going to add about 1.5 inches for every 2 rows that you add. So if that's something you want to do, this is the time to do it. Okay, but I'm going to go on ahead, and I've already turned to have the front side facing. I'm going to chain 2. So after this chain 2, we are going to work front post. I'm going to get this out of the way. Front post double crochets, not trebles, but double crochets in each stitch. So go ahead and do that to the corner. And as you do, make sure that you do have 4 front post double crochets for every 4 stitches that are crossed. We're 2 and 2. Okay, so make sure that we don't forget these hidden stitches back here. That would be very easy to do. So I'm going to work my front post double crochets in each stitch until I get to that chain 2 corner. Now that we are approaching the corner, go ahead and work front post double crochets on those 2 double crochets. That way it looks nice and uniform. And then now for the chain 2, just like you've been doing, go ahead and work 2 double crochets, a chain 2, and then 2 more double crochets. I'm going to go ahead and show this once I get it done. Okay, go ahead and move that out of the way. So 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets in that chain 2 corner, and then go ahead and do those front post double crochets over those 2 stitches, and then again go ahead and 1 front post double crochet in each stitch. So when you get to the other corner, just do the very same thing, and I'll show you the join at the end of this round. After working that front post double crochet all the way around, we're going to join not in the turning chain, but in the first front post double crochet of the round, just like that, and that ends the Celtic Weave portion. Okay, now we are going to continue on with, let me show you. We are going to do a repeat of these rounds here. Okay, we're going to repeat this. So, but before we do that, we are going to do one more round of single crochet with color number 1. So go ahead, chain 1, single crochet in that first stitch as joining, and single crochet all the way to the corner. After working a single crochet in each of those stitches, go ahead and in the chain 2 space here, work 2 single crochets, chain 2, and 2 more single crochets, just like we did early on. And again, don't forget this stitch here that tends to be covered up. Make sure you single crochet into each of these stitches. Now, rather than go through these other rounds again, I am actually going to give you an assignment. So after you complete the round number 29, which is the one we're working on here, you're going to fasten off, and of course you're going to be joining and fastening off right here. But when you join the new colors, make sure that you join in one of the chain 2 spaces. That just makes things a whole lot more easier. So for rounds number 30 through 45, you're going to be repeating rounds 3 through 18. So if you still need stitch support at this stage, what I would recommend you do is to back up the video or go back to where round number 3 is clearly labeled. After completing rounds 30 through 45, you should have this section completed. Okay, now we are getting very close to finishing our crocheting. So now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to join color number 1 once again, and we're going to join it where we've been doing it in the end here in that chain 2 section. So we're going to go ahead and join, make our slip knot. You've done this many times if you've gotten this far already. And we are going to work those 2 single crochets, chain 2, I'm going to slide it there a little bit, and 2 more single crochets, and then we're going to work single crochets all the way around, and we're going to do this for 5 rounds. Okay, at the end of each round, simply join with a slip stitch to the first stitch of the round, and then just continue on like you've been working with the single crochet. So go ahead and work 5 rounds of color number 1, and then we're going to fasten off.
I'm officially done crocheting my poncho. Let me show you the added 5 rounds and how this looks. Okay, now I'm not finished though, because I have a lot of loose strings to hide, and as you notice, my fabric is not even close to laying flat, and I do want to, take a look at that, and I want to change that, and I'm going to do that in the next video. So the next video is going to be on finishing our poncho. I'm going to be covering how to block this, as well as how to add the fringe, so it will be all completed. Okay, so take a look at that next video coming out soon, and I will see you then. God bless. Bye-bye.